What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some more Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous content, and today we are talking about the Crusade system and how it looks in Beta Phase 2. So I did actually cover this before, just kind of the bare bones basics, but Beta Phase 2 actually updated this quite a bit, and I kind of wanted to share those updates with everyone. So first things first, let's take a look at our Legion menu. If we have a Legion that is in play and we can take control of it, we can hit the settings button and bring up this page, which kind of gives us all the information about that Legion. So here we're looking at Legion 1. First thing I want to talk about is that at the bottom of the screen, just above where our units are, we can take a look at some stats. So the first one is our movement points. Now, time and stuff doesn't pass when you're moving your legions like it does when you move your party, at least not currently. However, you have a set number of movement points. This is as far as you can move this legion in one day. Now, this just drains as you're moving along the map. It starts at a base of 40, but if you have a leader for your legion, which we'll get into in just a second, as that leader levels up from winning victories, you can take, like, talents, I guess, for lack of a better word, that will increase your movement points per day, as well as all of these other stats we're about to talk about. Now, next up is combat morale. This is important. So for starters, if you're losing a lot of battles, or you're just not treating your troops very well, that kind of thing, they'll have low morale. Low morale will cost that unit turns. High morale actually gives you a chance to take another turn immediately, which means the unit who has that chance will be able to attack twice, for instance. Then next up we have our army strength. This isn't the most accurate tool at the moment. This is just kind of like a super general estimate about the strength of the associated army. Personally, I find that while it's okay generally, it can be very inaccurate. And then lastly, we have our army size. This is essentially the number of individual units that we can have in our army. So just like with the movement points, this can be upgraded as our leader levels up, but it starts at 3. That means you can have 3 different types of units in our army here. With the talents, you can increase that, and as you can see here, we have 4. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is our leader. So you do actually have to purchase generals or leaders in the interface where you would do it. So if this guy wasn't here, there would be a big thing that said set leader. Each leader has this little icon in the top left of their portrait. It doesn't explain what this is, but I assume it's going to be like a leader type, which will kind of talk about their stats and stuff. But right now it doesn't seem to be implemented or at least do very much. But nonetheless, talking about their stats, which are in a similar place, kind of towards the top here, we have this infirmary stat. What I believe this is, it doesn't actually tell you, is that after a battle, you'll recover so many of your troops that died. And I think this infirmary number is like the max number of troops that you can recoup after the battle. Now, army size here, we have talents and stuff that are increasing it, but I believe this is just from what it would increase just from having the leader or the leader type. Now, power is the power of the actual leader and their spells that they're using. So I don't know exactly what would be a good number here, but nonetheless, your leader will get spells and stuff that you can use every Legion turn, which we'll get into in just a minute, to then cast on the enemy units. And then we have attack and defense and all that standard stuff. So from here, I'll go ahead and show you guys the set leader stuff. So as you can see, this Legion 2 here doesn't have a leader. So if we click set leader, it brings up a general list that we actually have, and then we can hire new ones from here. This costs a bunch of Crusade resources. And again, you can see the type of leader that they are up here in the left corner. But again, that doesn't seem to do a ton at the beginning at the very least. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the recruit menu. So right now, I have 4 types of troops that I can recruit. We'll get into how some of that works here in just a second. I just want to show the menu here. At the top of each unit page on this, that we'll see plus so many a week. That is how many of those units we can recruit every week. Now, recruiting them will cost us Crusade resources, which as you can see up here. The diamond is finance points, the little bars are material points, and the circle thing is divine favors. But essentially, I can recruit so many of these per week based on that number, which can increase or decrease depending on some of the actions you take in your crusade, such as how you handle certain situations, but we'll get into that in just a second. So once you reach a certain point in the story, you will take a bit of a stronghold for your crusade, so to speak. This UI should look very similar because it's basically the Kingdom Management UI from Kingmaker. However, they've kind of changed it to fit the Crusade more. Now, essentially, it works the same way. We have these stats: leadership, strategy, diplomacy, military, and as we rank them up, we'll be given meetings and stuff to call, and then we'll have to make some choices about how we want to manage our crusade. Now, in addition to this, there are other things. When we defeat other armies, for instance, we can potentially find unique artifacts that we can then spend our crusade resources on turning into items. And we actually get a great deal of choice of what we turn those items into, which will give each option different stats, that kind of thing. So just kind of a cool little extra I wanted to mention. Each of these little missions that change the army and stuff as you handle the events that come up from your crusade management window will bring up a list of choices in a little meeting. So as we can see here, you can hover over the choice effects for each one, and it'll kind of tell you what picking that choice will actually do for your crusade. Now, in some instances, this will promote or change the units that you have access to. So, for instance, one of these had the option to change my archers into various different types of upgraded archers. So, do I want to make them rangers, or do I want to make them snipers? Do I make them headhunters? And each of them will have special bonuses. For instance, if I just hired bandits, my archers would then actually do extra damage on their first turn, whereas rangers are able to defend themselves in close quarters combat more effectively because regular archers get destroyed up close. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the actual interface here in an actual Legion fight. So for starters, let's talk about the world map. So as you can see here, we're moving our Legion along. But it's important to note that the demon armies can actually move as well. So these little red tokens that say Demon's Army, of course, are what can actually move. This is a traveling army. Now that said, some of them seem to stay in exactly the same spot, but then as time passes, some of them actually seem to move around the map. I've seen that happen. They can attack your stronghold, however, so far the ones that do that have been very weak. And then we have these little tower buildings also. These are garrisons. This is important because our regular party group moving around the map can move past the demon army tokens. However, these towers will actually block your character's progress because your Legion has to clear them out before you can clear that part of the map and move on. So what do these battles actually look like? Well, it's kind of a might and magic sort of thing. So basically, each unit will be able to move so far and attack once per turn. And then once per your total turn, that is to say, once per every time you have control of all of your units, you can cast a spell from your leader's resource pool. They have to, of course, know the spell to cast it, which they learn stuff as they level up. They also get access to things like traps and healing spells, as well as stat bonuses for your troops. But they have an energy bar at the top, and each spell will cost various amounts of energy that they have to spend to cast these spells. Now that energy just recovers over time, even outside of these battles, so you don't get a full bar every time. Something to keep in mind there. Beyond that, it's a pretty basic setup. I imagine in-game will probably get a little more complicated than this, but even just here, I have a variety of units. I've been able to promote them. Just a lot of stuff like that. Now, there is one more thing I want to mention before we move on. Just like in Kingmaker, we seem to be able to build up little outposts. I don't know how many of these are. This is probably the most likely subject to change if I had to guess. So, remember, this is a beta. But this part specifically seems undercooked compared to the rest of the Crusade system. But basically, we can make these outposts where we can set up like archery ranges and barracks and stuff that will give our Crusade various stats, much in the way that we could build cities and stuff in Kingmaker. The UI is literally the same. But right now, there's only a couple of buildings. I actually was supposed to be able to get another building, but I noticed it wasn't here when I went into the menu, which is one of the reasons I say there's probably still some stuff going on here. But I just wanted to mention that this is going to be a thing eventually. There you go, guys. There's kind of everything there is to show on the Crusade system in Beta Phase 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless, truly, just thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.